first of all, thank you, Jimmy Aiken, for all your work. Been a huge fan. My main question is, as Psychedelic hinted at, is parapsychological phenomenon more conscious or subconscious? So to put it respectively, like in my world as like a musician, if you told me I want you to play a G major chord over a certain pair of beats and we're going to measure phenomenon, versus something, I want you to play this fugue in the key of G major and we're going to measure that phenomenon, like which one do you think would have more results? And that kind of thing is like it kind of relating to subconscious or conscious phenomenon.
Okay, Johnny, let's get an answer
that
from
makes
Jimmy.
Sense.
Okay, so this is actually a subject that, now the Catholic Church has no teaching on this. The Catholic Church doesn't really veer into areas of science, and parapsychology is a science. Specifically, it's a science that studies psychic phenomena and the survival of bodily death. And so there's no church teaching in this area. The Catholic Church allows scientists to try to figure this out, just like it lets scientists in every other field try to figure out what's true scientifically about their field of study. So Catholics have had different opinions on this. Now, there have been highly respected theologians and doctors of the church like Pope St. Gregory the Great and St. Thomas Aquinas and St. Augustine, who were either open to or actually believers in what today would be called psychic phenomena. For example, St. Thomas Aquinas referred to what today would be called ESP, or extrasensory perception, as natural prophecy, to distinguish it from the supernatural prophecy that God gives. So Catholics are allowed to believe in and test and experiment with these ideas. What I can do in terms of your question, Johnny, about conscious and subconscious operation, since the church doesn't have a teaching here, is I can tell you what parapsychological researchers have found. Now, if you study parapsychology, which is one of the sciences that I study, you will find phenomena like ESP explained in terms of consciousness, but that just means something that's not strictly material. It just means it's connected with mental phenomena somehow. When it comes to it, does it need to operate, does ESP and other similar phenomena, do they need to operate above the threshold of consciousness so that we're aware of them? Or can they operate below the threshold of consciousness so we're not aware of their operation? Researchers have done a lot of experiments, and in recent years, they found a considerable amount of evidence that we experience, and this is everybody, not just trained psychics, but actually everybody experiences psychic phenomena subconsciously all the time. It is just something we use to navigate our environment according to standard parapsychological results. Sometimes it bubbles up into our conscious mind, but primarily it operates subconsciously. And that, if I understood your musical analogy correctly, it is kind of like the difference between playing an instrument without really having to think about it versus thinking about every single move you're making while playing the instrument. And psychic functioning seems to work the same way. It's primarily carried on a subconscious level, but there are things people can do consciously to try to evoke it. But one of the things that they need to do to try to evoke it is not overanalyze it. If people start overanalyzing what they're doing, they'll mess it up. Just like if you're playing an instrument and you start thinking super carefully about what each finger and each puff of breath or whatever the instrument is that you're doing, you're going to mess up playing the instrument. There is a heavy component that is carried out on the subconscious level, just like a proficient musician is going to carry out most of their instrumental functions subconsciously. And I hope that helps.